we now would request Dr. Rajeev Kumar to kindly come and deliver his inaugural address.
नमस्कार। और सबसे पहली बात मैं जो हूँ वो कैवल्य धाम को बहुत बहुत बधाई देना चाहता हूँ। ऐसा बहुत कम होता है कि 95 साल भी गुजर जाएं और एक ऐसा ट्रेडिशन मेंटेन रहे जो कि अनडाइल्यूटेड हो, जो कि उसी ट्रेडिशन में हो। और ना सिर्फ यही हो मगर ये भी हो कि एक पिता और पुत्र में एक ऐसा सामंजस्य हो जाए कि वो एक दूसरे की धरोहर आगे बढ़ाते रहें, तो इससे अच्छा और क्या हो सकता है। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत बधाई आपको, बहुत बहुत मुबारक आपको। Ladies and gentlemen, I feel actually quite inadequate because I am a mere economist, and economics, being the dismal science, is really very far away from all that we have been talking about this morning. And but nonetheless, I will try because I've had the great fortune of getting into, of discovering my own spiritual aspects in 1988 when I started the practice of meditation under the rubric of Sahaj Yoga, founded by Sri Mataji Nirmala Devi. So it's been now It's been now about more than 30 years, and it's been transformative for me. So I think I maybe am able to speak a little bit about what we have been talking about in that, because of that particular accident in my life. I think let me start off by saying that it will be. It's critical. It's critical now to introduce our indigenous values in our education system. It is critical because we have to start at least appreciating who we are. We have to stop looking at ourselves as an inferior, being, as an inferior civilization, as an inferior, body of work, because that's what we have been brought up as. हम लोगों को मतलब ये मैं आपसे सच में दिल से कह रहा हूँ कि जब बड़े हुए जैसे और जब मैं ऑक्सफोर्ड पहुँचा तो मतलब ये लगा कि एक ऐसी जगह आ गया हूँ कि मतलब जहाँ पे मेरा अब उद्धार हो जाएगा और जहाँ की जिस तरह से कि अब नाउ दिस इज द अल्टीमेट। तो हमें उस सब को बदलने के लिए it is important for us to bring back these values, to bring into these values, to rediscover our values, simply to recognize that we are one of the people who have actually had amazing role in the development of human knowledge and human society. And I think we need to rediscover that because the ultimate irony, ladies and gentlemen, would be that when we start accepting yoga and Ayurveda, when it comes to us packaged by US patents, because this is what we are trying to, this is what happens most of the time. Most of the time what happens is that we don't accept what goes on in our society, what people tell us, etc. But when we hear it from across the shores, when we hear it from the Western world, then we start accepting it. And I think that will be the ultimate irony. And this is bound to happen because believe you me, from what I now know, after having worked with people like Dr. Patwardhan, Dr. Nagendra, Dr. Kotecha and everybody else, the US medical system, the US research scientific system are now beginning to recognize these things and their contribution to human health, to human mental and physical health. So this is about to happen, and I think it is therefore important for us to give as much attention to our own indigenous values and to our traditional knowledge systems of Ayurveda, of yoga, of Unani, of Siddha. All of those I think we need to be giving much more attention than what we've been doing today. But that does not any case mean revivalism or obscurantism, because that is what the charge has always been, and that is what also sometimes happens in our eagerness to prove that our systems, our ancient systems, are very developed, highly developed, etc., etc. We tend to give we tend to claim things without evidence, and we tend to claim proclaim things without any scientific backing or inquiry. And I think that's not right. And that's what brings us actually embarrassment very often. And I think this is what I heard recently the Prime Minister also say, that look, we know what we have been able to achieve. We know what the amazing things that we know that these systems are. But nonetheless, let us focus much more on scientific analysis, on the scientific backing of these systems rather than anything else. And this is where again I want to congratulate Kaivalyadhama, because one of their tagline, one of their motto is that this is where tradition meets science. I think this is important. This is an amazing work that you've been doing, sir, and congratulations for that. The fact that you brought out the journal as early as you did, that your articles are published in internationally peer-reviewed journals, I think that is where we must focus on. And I really urge the students here, I really urge the faculty members here, that our greatest contribution to our own systems, to our own traditions, could be and will be that we will do the scientific analysis, discovery, etc., to back them up and to prove that these are as good or even better than what you have in the so-called Western world, etc. I think this is very important, and we should we should refrain from glorifying our past in the assumption that everybody accepts whatever we are saying. I think this is something that's very important. And therefore, we should think about introducing these values into our education system, into our modern policy making, etc., for preparing our next generation to face the future challenges that are bound to come. And if we make this whole thing more forward-looking, if we make this whole the entire experience, the entire effort at introducing the formidable challenges that are going to be coming to our country and to our next generation, to be able to better face them, I think we will succeed in a much better way. And so therefore, rather than be backward or past looking, rather than trying to get our sustenance or our legitimacy from what we have achieved in the past, our effort must be to get our legitimacy and sustenance and our kudos from what we can offer to the future. I think that's the key important thing, and that's what we should do. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there are many examples, there are hundreds of examples in which if we use Indian values, we can become the most modern society of the world, the most scientific society of the world. And let me just start off with one or two examples. One example, for example, the little shloka of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Now we say this, but do we practice it? Do we show what we can do it? And what huge implications it has for making our society, the Indian society, the most modern, the most equal, the most equitable, and the most fair society in the world is captured in these two words, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Let me explain. If we believe that the world is one family, which is what these two words mean, then clearly there is no role at all, there is no place at all of treating anybody else who follows another religion or another spiritual tradition as inferior to oneself. Cannot be, because Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. And we know that the Paramatma resides within each one of us as the Atma. And whatever we are, whatever we have, and this has been the big grand old Indian tradition. We have never ever tried to convert anybody into any form of thinking, because we respect whatever you are. We respect whatever you are. And that is what we in our tradition. Now imagine how amazing, in this globalizing world, where distances mean nothing, where communications are becoming completely all-pervasive, where we think we are interacting across borders everywhere, and yet we find that in the name of religion and fundamentalism, etc., are the greatest strife that you are facing today. This particular philosophy of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, if followed and practiced by us, true to the letter and the spirit of this word, would mean that we have no concept of the other in our society. Each one of us is what we are. Each one of us is the same as we are. Therefore, can we today come about to the situation that we formally or otherwise respect every incarnation? We respect every Satguru that is born anywhere in the world, that we think of all other religions and spiritual traditions as equally good and are curious about learning from them as we are curious about learning from our society. Now this is for me, these two words have a concept of a most modern, equitable, fair and a society free of religious and spiritual strife. That's a global society, that's a globalizing society. But look at the other aspect of this word, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Because the other aspect of this word, of this particular this phrase is the Indian habit of living with nature and not conquering nature. And that's amazing. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It's not just, it's not just us humans which are Kutumb. The whole nature is our family. And if it is our family, then of course we have to take care of it. I've had a long innings in the Marxist tradition when I was a student, and I went to the extent that I left college and started trying to practice, Marxist-Leninism thought. And in that tradition, the ultimate contradiction that we face is between man and nature. That's supposed to be a contradiction. And man is expected to conquer nature and bring nature to its own command, bring nature to the working of man's desires. And what does that mean? That if you conquer nature, then you don't stop at admiring or at preserving nature. You bend the nature to your will, to the supreme ego and will of the human being. But that's not the Indian tradition of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam implies that you live with nature. And the other aspect of this is quite amazingly, I found out as my first economics conference was in the University of Patiala, where the head of the department of the economics department, Professor H.K. Manmohan Singh, his PhD thesis in the 1950s was about denying the theory of utility, which rested on unlimited demands and limited resources. And his PhD thesis was about how to make demands more rational. How to make demands more rational. The entire Western science is based on the fact that human demands are unlimited. And what is our tradition in the concept of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam? That our demands have to be rationalized. Our demands don't have to go keep running behind. The chase behind material achievement is just a chimera. We cannot do that. Our own concept is Jab aave santosh dhan, sabdan dhur saman. Why can't we live that today? Can we not bring it into our policy framework? Can we not bring it into our teaching? Can we not bring it into our education system and rediscover what economics is all about? Can economics not be a science of achieving the balance between nature and human being? Can economics not be a science about conserving environment and taking and making our resources as further as we can, rather than despoiling nature? So, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to say that this is why we are so really challenged. We face a big challenge, and this challenge we will get over only if we decide to incorporate some of these things in actual day-to-day life, in our teaching and in our policy making. And I want to give you two examples of what we have been trying to do in NITI Aayog as a result of this. The first example is Dr. Patwardhan already mentioned. For the last 1.5 years, and Subodh knows about this, my colleagues have been going very strongly on trying to create a body of integrative medicine. And I've had the help of the highest, of the biggest, of the most amazing minds in this regard. Why can't we begin to look at Indian traditional medicine with the same respect as we do with the modern allopathic medicines? I think the Chinese have done it. The Chinese have had their traditional medicines approved by the FDA, and they are now following that. We have nothing of the sort. I know of a modern doctor, of a very highly placed modern allopathic doctor, who thinks of Ayurveda as just simple mumbo jumbo. I think it's time to change that. I am a beneficiary of Ayurveda, so I can say that with my own experience. And what therefore in NITI Aayog we have tried to do is we have established a standing committee which will try to integrate the two medicines. We have selected the topics, 4 or 5, where very rigorous research will be done, which will be peer reviewed by modern scientists, and the results of that would be published in international journals to show that the traditional medicine is as good, if not better, in treating human beings and not just in treating symptoms, which is what we do as a whole, we do otherwise. So that's the first thing that we have tried to do, and we will follow this up to the point that where Dr. Nagaratna of the S. Vyasa, the colleague of Dr. Dagendra, her ambition is that we should have an integrated medicine course, where for the first 2 years, every student learns all the forms of medicine and then chooses to go wherever he or she wants to go into the world. That's what we need to do, and that's what we are going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, and the second thing that we have tried to, that I am now, we are, with my colleagues, some of us are involved in what is called zero budget natural farming. To have India, to try out, to see for ourselves whether we can have an agriculture which has zero chemical inputs into it. We have done this. I have pursued this with as much effort that I can do. I have now visited about 5 states, interacted with farmers. I have never seen happier farmers than those practicing zero budget natural farming. So honestly, I am telling you, in Himachal, in Gujarat, in Andhra, in Madhya Pradesh, in Haryana, it is amazing to see crops without any fall in productivity, without any fall in yields, and not using even a drop of chemical fertilizer, pesticide or weedicide. I think that is, if we can do that, and this is becoming a trend even in the Western world. President Macron has declared that France will follow chemical-free agriculture in the years to come. I think this is the chance where India can emerge as Jagat Guru and following the ambition and the call of Swami Vivekananda. And this is the thing that we can do here in this regard. So this is bringing Indian practices, Indian experiences into policy making. And I therefore appeal to you, to say that if you have instances, if you have examples, if you have any ideas on how to bring them in, please send them to NITI Aayog. You will find a very, sort of, conducive environment in NITI Aayog in bringing this back, in bringing this into, the policy making. The one thing that I actually forgot about Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam is also the Indian tradition of respecting the women, respecting the female form, the Shiva and Shakti. The Shiva is inert, is completely, so in some sense, if you like, has nothing at all without the Shakti. We are the only tradition where you have 9 days of Navaratri, all devoted to the worship of the Shakti, of the worship to the energy. I bring this up simply because, again, this is what we are trying to do in NITI Aayog, in the concept of, in the practice of improving the lot of the girl child in our country. So that is important, that is so critical, that is so important. And again, if we follow our own traditions, if we accept the female form, if we accept the women as even a better person, as a better example of humanity than male, then we should be looking after the girl child and doing whatever we can to protect them, which we don't do today. And this is the way to do it. Finally, I don't remember the full shloka, but I know that in Gita, Lord Krishna said, Yoga Kshem Avhamyam. And what did that imply? That imply, Arjun, you achieve yoga, the Kshem will come to you. Just the reverse. Right? And this is exactly what the burden of the song should be all the time. That can we achieve yoga? Because once you achieve yoga, all our ability, capabilities, skills will naturally come to us. And the question that this should be asked is, how do we achieve yoga? Ladies and gentlemen, I have a little slightly different view on yoga, because I don't think you do yoga, you achieve yoga. Because yoga is unity. Yoga is the unity between Atma and Paramatma. Yoga is the unity with the divine. And therefore the question must be asked in Kaivalyadhama and all other institutions as to, are we teaching, are we practicing the art of achieving yoga? Whether it is through Hatha Yoga, whether it is through Dhyan or Dharana or Samadhi or Pranayam, the fact is that you must achieve that unity of the Atma and the Paramatma. You must be able to experience the Param Chaitanya that Adi Shankaracharya talked about in such beautiful ways in Saundarya Lahari, because all of these things are real experiences. All of these things are real. I have had the amazing fortune of being able to practice it, as I said, since 1988. And here is just a side story. The person who initiated me into this form of meditation, Sahaj Yoga, himself an MBBS doctor, paralyzed in his life, and given up by all his medical colleagues as saying that now you have to lead a life of a paralytic person. His whole left side was paralyzed, and cured through meditation. To the day that he's living now today, and he's traveled all over the world. And he's a living example of how when medicines fail, meditation works, and your inner strength works. And he's the one who initiated me into this. He gave up medicine after that. He stopped practicing medicine after that, and has been preaching and has been devoting his time to this. Why am I saying all of this is that at least the way I know, the entire subtle system of achieving this yoga has been placed by nature, has been placed by Paramatma within our own physical body. You have the three nadis, the Sushumna, Ida, and the Pingala, that Kabir described in such amazing way. And we have the chakras. We have the seven major chakras: the Mooladhara, the Swadhisthana, the Manipur, Anhat, Vishuddhi, Agya, and Sahasrara. We have the other chakras. All of this has been placed already within our system for us to rediscover it, for us to find it, and then for us to use it, for us to then be able to raise our Kundalini and achieve the connection with the divine, so that you become one with the divine and you achieve your yoga, after which the shame will come to us always. If the Indian society today becomes a society of yogis, if the Indian society becomes today one of people who know that we are all the same and nobody is different from us, if the Indian society becomes one who does not distinguish between gender and between religions and other forms of religion and spirituality, and if the Indian society becomes one which respects nature, which vows to protect nature and live with nature, I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that we will be the best society that the world has ever seen and will see in the future. Thank you very much.